This is Adam Gorney, the National Recruiting Director, here with our special guest for Tuesdays with Gorney, Craig Young, who is the father of former five-star quarterback Bryce Young and now the Alabama starting quarterback. I like to say five-star first and then Alabama. I think that's important. But I want to start, Craig, with an apology because you were the guy that told me Bryce was better than a lot of people thought he was early on, and you were definitely right. And quarterback dads tend to have high opinions of their sons, but in this case, it was dead on and from the beginning. But let's go back to the beginning, because I remember that Texas Tech offer. Yes. I remember that Cliff Kingsbury camp, and you guys were pretty excited about that. What was that like to just get going, and now to see Kingsbury, as an NFL coach too?
Absolutely. So first off, Adam, apology accepted. And you're still my man. You always will be. So going back into that first offer, I remember driving in the car after. Well, when I first remember the talk with him and Coach Kingsbury, and I remember the look in his eye. And it was kind of where it was like, wow, you know what? Maybe you will be able to play in college. Because always that first one's kind of like that affirmation, like, you know what? All this hard work, maybe we'll end up into a scholarship. And I remember that. And I remember going and trying to find the best steakhouse we could find in Lubbock and having a tomahawk. And I just couldn't remember the sense of accomplishment. So really that probably not anything on the field, but off the field, that's probably one of my most fondest memories of us and our relationship, because that was just kind of the trip that we went to together, and it was just, and it worked out great.
And then it took off from there. I mean, basically everybody offered. You commit to USC, which is no surprise. I mean, he's a local kid. He loved USC. You loved USC. Everything happens there. The decommitment, and you end up at Alabama. Walk us through how that kind of happened, and just the thinking there, and how difficult it is, for a kid and a father to make that decision and kind of get through that together.
Absolutely. And, this has kind of been well chronicled. I know we've talked about it a lot. The first thing we wanted to say is I think anytime you change a commitment, it's difficult, especially for our family, because for us, we didn't take the word commitment lightly. And when we were at SC, we were 100% SC, and that's where we thought we would end up. And then through the recruiting process, you develop relationships with those coaching staffs, the other parents of the recruits, the kids in that class. So making that decision at that time was very taxing and kind of difficult and gut-wrenching and emotional for our family. But in the sense of, when you make a decision, like most decisions, you have to be somewhat pragmatic as well and figure out what is the best situation for you to achieve your goals. And for Bryce's goal is to maximize his potential as a football player, play for national championships, play in big games, and be in the championship conversation every year, and to be developed by the best and play against the best. And that's what Alabama signified to us, and that's kind of why we made that decision. But nothing against SC. It was just that at that point in that time in our journey, Alabama was the best, and was and still is the best option for us and our family.
Yeah, and obviously a great decision, and it turned out incredibly well, and he's playing well. As you take that Alabama visit, though, and you see the place, what do you experience as people from California that haven't really experienced SEC football, the feeling of it, and just how important it is to people there? And then you leave Tuscaloosa and you're flying home. What does that feel like as you go through that, and kind of make the decision? Yeah, we're gonna go here.
It's like, man, this is really real. Yeah. Just to be completely honest with you, because I mean, even when you're making that visit, still in your heart, you're like, you know what, this is where we're going to be. But then when you go to a place like Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and just see, I think a lot of people see the football side of it. Yeah. They see the championships, and they see the SEC, and they see the huge crowds, which is a major factor. But what you don't see is the complete program. When you're talking about the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, the recovery, the academic support, the nutrition, even the mental health and the sports psychology component, and then the way that Coach Saban and the program has either former Alabama players or leaders in their industry, either be sports, entertainment, or whatever, come and talk to the players and breathe that life into them and share those experiences. It's a complete and total program. And then with and they do a great job of recruiting. And then also when Coach Saban and at that point Coach Sark feel like you could be one of the best players in the country for one of the best teams in the country, that's a hard thing to it gives you pause. So we paused, and then we made a decision Bryce made the decision to go to Tuscaloosa.
We've all seen the pictures on Twitter of Nick Saban standing there smiling with someone in his office and the couch and the desk and the whole thing. And what is that hard sell like? Because he's the closer, right? Like he's the guy that really, puts the polish on it. What was that like for you guys as you sit there and he says, "We want you to be, our quarterback of the future"?
What's really cool, and it's kind of pointing at him, is that it's not a hard sell because it sells itself.
Right.
When you're in that, and when you're on that couch, in that nice little office, and you see the rings in front of you, and you see Coach Saban very detailed, very pragmatic, in a very real way, explaining to you how he develops players and how this program. And when you're as a dad, you're sitting there, and they said, he lists how many left tackles are first round picks. When you talk about how many receivers have been first round picks, as a dad and as a quarterback, those things resonate with you. You left tackle, your offensive line, because the quarterback, for all the attention and accolades it gets, is a dependent position. You're dependent upon your line. You're dependent on your receivers. You're dependent on your offensive coordinator. And at Alabama, all those things are top notch. So when you sit there, and it's a little mesmerizing because this is Coach Saban. You've seen him, and even as a Pac-12 guy and the West Coast guy, you know the gravitas of Coach Saban, and just trying to see that and just to be in that room, it's kind of surreal. You're like, wow, am I really right across from Coach Saban? We're really talking like this, but he has a way of being very disarming and making you feel comfortable into saying, I'm going to explain to you why our program is the best and why I feel like it's the best fit for your son and how it could help develop him and take him to the next level. And at the end of the day, when you're as a family, and I say this to all families, when you're getting recruited, that's really what you want to get to. You want to understand what is the plan, and then after the plan, how have you executed it, and then show me evidence of this plan and the execution. In Alabama, that they can show you. They have, all you got to do is look at the wall or look at all those rings in front of you.
We've talked about this over the years so many times, and it's great to see. But Bryce's size, and they still talk about it on TV, and it's been a question for our rankings, and we've had this discussion a million times, and then you see him play, and in senior year, modern day St. Francis from Baltimore comes out. They have guys at Alabama now, and it looked like they were going to swallow him up, and he torched them. And then Miami, they have guys coming off the edge, and he torches them. He goes to Florida and puts 21 early on in the game. Are you ever surprised by what he could do on the field, where he could put the ball, just the calmness? The first game against Miami doesn't bother him. Going into the swamp on a Saturday night doesn't bother him. Are you ever taken aback by even what your son can do, even though you've seen it time and time and time again?
The short answer is no. And Adam, I'm so happy because you mentioned size. I'm so happy that you haven't screenshot any of those long texts that I used to send you.
I still have them.
Are you saving them for?
Oh, I saved them.
So again, like I said, Adam and I go a long way, and Adam has always been kind of a champion for Bryce, and I still remember literally you were the first write-up that he has. So it's always going to be love. But to your point about the size, you know what? At this point in time, I feel like that's if they want to mention it, then that's everyone else's issue. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's really about production, and I think that's part of his journey. And I think we're meant to do things, and we have certain gifts. And so when those gifts are undeniable, then your size and all that stuff really aren't going to matter. And I think for families, for kids recruiting who aren't the ideal size, control the things you can control, because you can't make yourself grow. Now you can get into the best physical condition you can be in, you can work hard, but master your craft. And by no means has Bryce mastered it, because obviously there's room for growth, but we developed some adaptations for your size to make sure that you can outplay some of the bias. And with that, like and Adam, you know that better than anybody, because you can list his attributes, but like quick release, high IQ, get your footwork, be able to dissect defenses, have arm strength, make sure that you're getting coached up, and make sure you're technically sound in your release. Do control the things that you can control. And Bryce does a really good job and an infinitely better job than me of not really paying attention to people saying what he can't do or size. He really compartmentalizes and focuses on the things that he can control. And he's not fueled by that. Like for me, I'd be fueled by that. Like, I'm going to prove everything wrong. No, he's internally fueled by just being the best that he can be and controlling what he can control.
And I also think too, Craig, we've seen a metamorphosis of the position, even from the start of his recruitment.
Absolutely.
There was almost a rule that if you're under 6 feet or not over 6'3", you couldn't be a 5-star. And pocket passers were everything. Pro style was everything. And now, half the league are guys that run around. And it's not exactly like Bryce runs around and has to do that all the time, but it's definitely like the position has changed. But it's also nice to see, and you kind of notice this, watching Saban's press conferences, even him on the sideline, Bill O'Brien, it seems like there's a trust level there that is rare for such a young quarterback, that there's like an acceptance that Bryce knows what's going on, and I'm going to let him run this offense. Have you kind of noticed that? Because I watch college football all Saturday, and half the coaches out there are just screaming and yelling at their quarterbacks half the time, and don't really sort of accept that he knows what's going on. Let him run the offense. I don't need to be in his face every time.
I think, and Bryce has said this in his in a lot of his interviews, like, trust is earned through preparation and performance. And so I think there's a level of trust just because they know that he's put in the work. They know that he's going to, that he's in the film room. They know that he's really dedicated himself, because you don't get there without sacrifice. And so for a lot of the recruits and for people out there, you're going to have to sacrifice. There's going to be parties you're not going to be able to go to. There's going to be places you're not going to be able to go. There's going to be things you're going to have to turn down because you're putting in the work. And also it speaks to the kind of like the Alabama's coaching. I think there's when you've won and you've done it for a long time, like Coach Saban has, I think that there's a level of comfort and calmness. So yes, they definitely, I've noticed that as well, but I think that that's earned. And I also agree with you a lot about how the position has changed. And I think that's in one of those long emails I sent you as well. Back in the day. I think, we don't talk about Johnny Manziel a lot because of some of the issues, but leading up to that, he was kind of he was a smaller guy, won the Heisman, did some things moving around. Then there was Russell Wilson, and then he started doing it. And then with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. And then what people don't also talk about is Drew Brees. Drew Brees is just because he doesn't run around, people don't. He is not a tall guy. So there's been more guys and more of a volume of work of guys doing it differently. I think it became more accepting. And then to Rivals' credit, took y'all a while, but to your credit, the rankings adapted with that. And also the game primarily is played in the gun. Primarily you're in the gun, spread out. You still have to find passing lanes. So I think it's different. So Bryce, his game and his style of play kind of developed at the right time, where there was kind of, I think, where football was changing and developing in a different direction as well.
This weekend, Alabama, Ole Miss, obviously one of the biggest games in the country. 2 former USC quarterback commits going at it. Matt Corral against Bryce, Lane, Saban, the whole thing. The storylines are endless. While I have you for one more minute, quickly on NIL. Obviously, it was a big thing early in the season. There were some comments made about how much money he's making, all those kinds of things. Yes. I see you have a very nice place where you're staying. Yeah, absolutely. Just kidding. Yeah.
Go ahead.
How do you see it as the father of a quarterback? Should it be important in recruiting? Is it something that is inevitably going to change the sport, or is it just something that, kids should be able to make money just like a teen actor or teen musician or whatever should be able to make money. How do you kind of see the whole thing, especially with him, who will be, a face of college football, if not the Heisman Trophy, if not national championships and all that kind of stuff?
Wow, Adam, it's a great question. So let me figure out how to answer that. So I'm not, my comment isn't spliced all over the internet.
That's what we're hoping.
Exactly. First and foremost, I think that in anything, always keep the main thing, and that's what they say a lot in Alabama. So you want to make sure that yes, NIL is a blessing and frankly a long time coming, because a lot of athletes and collegiate athletes have fought and sacrificed and gone through some very significant hard times and hardships while universities made large sums of money. So I think that this discrepancy, that a discrepancy that has been that is finally evening out, cannot be a bad thing in itself. And I think we need to take a step back and understand that. Secondarily, you want to just make sure that in anything in life, it's always performance based. So if you're performing and you're doing well, then then obviously there'll be some opportunities. And then how you take advantage of those opportunities is kind of up to the individual and the support system that you have around you and the team that you have. But always make sure that football and academics are the most important thing. And I don't think that NIL and athletes taking care of their business are two things that are mutually exclusive. I mean, sure. You can still do both. So I can't forecast how it will change the landscape of college athletics. But however, what I do think, like anything else, you want to just make sure that you have great people around you, that you are making decisions that are true to yourself and true to your family and that are responsible. And then you're taking care of and keeping what's the most important, which is going to be getting your education and performing on the football field, being a great person and a great teammate. And if some endorsement opportunities come along the way, then that's a blessing. That shouldn't be an issue.
Great. Craig, thank you so much for the time. It's been great knowing you for years, and hopefully we'll know each other for many more. And an invite on draft night, I will gladly accept.
Absolutely. Give your the best to you and your family, Adam.
Thanks so much, Craig.